Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y analysis video. Today's video is going to be all about the new panda Pokemon, Pangoro. So let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Pangoro is a fighting Dark-type Pokemon introduced into Generation 6, and only the second Pokemon to possess this unique typing, the other one being Scrafty, which was just introduced last generation. As for its abilities though, the first one that it gets is Iron Fist, which is an ability that boosts the power of all of Pangoro's punching attacks by 20%. And this is absolutely fantastic for this Pokemon because it does learn a few good punching moves. However, right now it doesn't have access to the elemental punches like Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, and Fire Punch, but since there's always a third game for every generation with more move tutors, I'm expecting it to be able to eventually learn those moves. So that's kind of cool to just think about for the future of using Pangoro. But as of right now, it doesn't really need any coverage other than what it currently gets, which is also something really cool to think about. But as far as his next ability is concerned, it is Mold Breaker, which is an ability that cancels out the effects of other abilities. So for example, if you are using a Mold Breaker Pangoro, you will be able to hit Pokemon with the Levitate ability with Ground-type moves because you completely ignore the fact that that Levitate ability is there. So that's another really cool way to use Pangoro if you want to. Well, lastly, Pangoro gets the Scrappy ability as its hidden ability, which is an amazing ability again that will allow you to be able to hit ghost types with normal and fighting type moves. Now, more often than not, you're not necessarily going to need this ability just because Pangoro does have access to stab dark type attacks, which are super effective against ghosts anyway. However, using this ability could allow you to have a much easier time fighting your opponent because you won't have to necessarily predict if they're going to bring in a ghost type or not, and whether or not you should go with a dark or fighting move, which you're probably going to be running anyway. So with the Scrappy ability, you can just go for fighting moves and not really have to worry about anything, which is a really cool thing. But as for its stats, Pangoro has a fantastic base 95 HP stat, but its defenses are pretty below average, being base 78 defense and 71 special defense. So even though its HP is fairly good, it still isn't going to be taking hits like super well as if a defending wall were to be able to. However, it is able to tank a hit or two in battle just because it does have a naturally high HP stat, which is really cool to know. As for its attacking stats though, it has base 124 physical attack, which is absolutely fantastic and will definitely allow Pangoro to do massive amounts of physical attacking damage to all of your opponents. Its special attack is also base 169, base 69, not 169, which is going to not be that great in comparison to your physical attack. It's really cool this Pokemon has access to Surf, fun fact, but you're more often than not going to be running a special Pangoro. There's really no reason to, ever, so just stick with the physical attack for the most part. And then lastly, Pangoro has a base 58 speed, which is fairly slow, so just keep that in mind when you are using this Pokemon, because it will generally be on the slower side of the Pokemon that you're using. However, that should not discourage you from running speed or anything like that on it at all, because it still can be faster than plenty of other Pokemon that don't typically invest in speed, such as other walls that Pangoro will have a lot of damage output to potentially be able to break through. So this first set that I have for you in this Pangoro video is my personal favorite Pangoro set, and one that I believe is going to be possibly its most effective offensive set as of right now. This set also has two possible natures and EV spreads, which I will get to later. But to start things off for this set, the one that you're looking at right now, we're going to start by giving Pangoro either an Adamant or a Jolly nature. Adamant increasing your physical attack but lowering your special attack, whereas Jolly will increase your speed but lower your special attack. And for the ability, you can either go with Iron Fist to boost the power of all of your punching moves, or Scrappy to allow your fighting type attacks to hit ghost types. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into its physical attack to max that out, 4 into its special defense, and then the remainder 252 EVs into its speed to max that out as well. As for the item, there are 4 possibilities on this set, the first one being a Choice Scarf, which will boost your speed by 1 stage while locking you into a move. Now, I know Pangoro is fairly slow, but with a Choice Scarf, you are able to outspeed Pokemon of up to base 110 speed, which is like a Pokemon like Tauros, so that is still pretty quick, and definitely surprising. I have faced a number of Scarfed Machamps in my day, which have always just taken me by surprise and done some serious damage to my team, and if you think about it, Pangoro is actually faster than Machamp, so there are even more things you could outspeed with that Pokemon. So that's just something to keep in mind. Up next, we have a Choice Band, which will increase your physical attack by 1 stage while locking you into a move to make Pangoro extremely powerful. And then we also have the option of running either a Life Orb or an Expert Belt to allow you the freedom of switching up your moves while also increasing their damage. As for the moves though, the first one that we're going to be going with is going to be your main fighting type attack on the set, which is going to be Sky Uppercut. Now this is the best fighting type attack that Pangoro learns aside from Hammer Arm, but Hammer Arm lowers your speed by 1 stage, and because we are maxing our speed on the set, we don't really need to worry about it that much. But the other great thing about Sky Uppercut is that it is boosted by Iron Fist, so that is something to keep in mind because it will be slightly more powerful than you might be used to because of the Iron Fist boost. Up next we have your main Dark type attack for the set, which is either going to be Crunch or Payback, and this is more or less dependent upon what you think you're going to be up against as to whether or not you think Pangoro will be faster or slower than your opponent. Crunch is obviously the stronger, more reliable option, as it will always be 80 base power, regardless of whether or not you are faster or slower, but if you do expect to be slower more often than not, Payback is definitely a fantastic option to go with, as it will be 100 base power if you go after your opponent moves. And then lastly on this set, we're going to be going with Poison Jab, which is yet another move that is boosted by Iron Fist, making it do a lot more damage, and because your stab in Fighting in Dark is resisted by Fairy, Poison Jab is going to be there to allow you to hit those Fairy types super effectively, and overall give you some amazing coverage between these 3 attacking moves. And then lastly on the set, we are going to be going with Parting Shot, which is going to act as a U-turn. This is Pangoro's signature move, and what this move does is it switches you out of battle while simultaneously lowering your opponent's physical and special attack. And this could be amazing for supporting another member of your team, because in switching out, you lower their attacking stats, and thus allow something else to come in and take hits a lot easier, which, if you are running maybe a setup Pokemon on your team, they are now able to take attacks from whatever just switched in a lot easier and set up so much easier. So think about using this Pokemon possibly with like a Shell Smasher, because you will definitely be able to set up a lot easier if your opponent has lowered stats, and that's just something to keep in mind, or just any other setup move Pokemon. But overall, this coverage that you get is absolutely fantastic, and the utility from Parting Shot is also really great. Now, if you do run the Adamant Iron Fist Choice Band variant, there are a couple things to keep in mind. And this is my preferred way to use this set, but there are obviously the other ways to use it as well. But you are able to 2-hit KO Skarmory, Alomomola, and Forretress running max defense after Stealth Rock damage is taken into consideration. You were able to 2-hit KO them with Sky Uppercut, and that is just some serious power right there. It's just something to keep in mind. Alomomola might take a little bit more damage just because it can protect for some leftovers recovery, but more often than not, you will be able to 2-hit KO this Pokemon very easily. Also, some other really common physical walls that you're most likely going to be seeing are Gliscor and Weezing, and you are actually able to feasibly 2-hit KO them with Crunch after they take a little bit of prior damage. So you are able to just bust through some of the most common and effective defensive walls in the game with a Choice Banded set just because of how powerful this Pokemon is, which is something really awesome to keep in mind. And then you obviously have Poison Jab backing you up for some super effective type coverage against the bulky Fairy types that you might be up against. Now, as I said, there is an alternative way to use this set, so you're going to start this one by going with an Adamant Nature. Same ability, same moves. We're taking out a Choice Scarf here because we're not running any speed, and actually you can also run Hammer Arm on this set if you would like to. I forgot to mention that. And then also you could possibly run Leftovers if you want to, but we are going to be going with 232 HP EVs, 252 physical attack EVs, and then 24 speed EVs to make you a little bit of a bulkier variant than the version that you just saw. For this next set, we're going to start by giving Pangoro a Careful Nature to increase its special defense but lower its special attack. And for the ability, we're going to again be going with either Iron Fist or Scrappy depending on your preferences. As for the EVs, we're going to put 232 into its HP, 252 EVs into its special defense to max that out, and then the remainder 24 EVs into its speed to make Pangoro slightly faster and allow it to outspeed Pokemon of base 60 speed or lower like in the previous set. And as for the item, we're going to be going with Leftovers as a way to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. As for the moves, we're going to be going first with Substitute as a way to get behind a protective barrier to shield us from attacks and take moves a lot easier, and also to be used in combination with your boosting move of the set, which is going to be Bulk Up, which will be boosting your physical attack and your physical defense by 1 stage every time you go for it. And as I've said before many times in sets just like these, since we are basically maxing our HP and special defense with the Careful Nature, we are already able to take special hits fairly well, and after a few Bulk Ups, our substitutes will be very difficult to break as we will be boosting our physical defense as well. But as for the main attacking moves of the set, we are again going to be going with Sky Uppercut as our main fighting type move on the set. I guess you could also run Hammer Arm here, but I would prefer I personally prefer if my Pangoro stays to be a faster speed. It made more sense on the previous set just because we were going for sheer power, but since this set is more defensive, we should be running anything, or we should not be running anything that's really going to be lowering any of our stats. But for our main dark type move on the set, again, we could either choose between Crunch or Payback, depending on whether or not you think Pangoro will or will not be outspeeding many of its opponents. Now do keep in mind that these two moves are resisted by fairy types, so that is something to just put in the back of your mind as you are using the set, as it might be difficult to take them out, as they will be able to take both of your attacks fairly easily and hit you 4 times super effective because you are weak to it from both the fighting and dark side. So that is just something to keep in mind when using this Pangoro set, but overall it's just a solid boosting set for this Pokemon that will allow it to be very tanky and take a lot of hits. And finally, I have a phasing set to run on Pangoro. So we're going to start this set off by giving Pangoro a Careful Nature to increase its special defense and lower its special attack, and for the ability we're going to be going with Scrappy. As for the EVs, we're going to put 228 into its HP, 128 into both its physical and special defense to give it some nice mixed bulk, and then the remainder 24 EVs into its speed to allow it to outspeed Pokemon of up to base 60 speed or lower. And as for the item on this set, we're going to be going with Leftovers as a way to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. As for the moves, since this is a phasing set, the move of choice on the set is going to be Circle Throw, and that will be your main fighting type attack, as this move will be shuffling your opponents around. Now this set works wonders if you are using it in combination with entry hazards, and because of the Scrappy ability, you are able to Circle Throw every single Pokemon in the game, because there will be nothing immune to it, as you will be able to hit all the Ghost type Pokemon that would be typically immune to your fighting type moves. Now there are Pokemon that have the Suction Cups ability that obviously will not be able to be phased out, but those are not too common, and more often than not they typically run a different ability. I'm mainly just thinking of Credilli, which typically runs the Storm Drain ability now, but more often than not, you'll be able to Circle Throw pretty much everything in the game and shuffle stuff around, and as I said, if you have entry hazards up, you will be able to rack up a ton of damage against your opponent. As for your next move, though, again, you're going to be choosing between Crunch or Payback, depending on your dark type preferences, and then the last 2 slots are going to be dedicated to Rest and Sleep Talk to allow Pangoro to continue to attack while it's statused, get rid of any statuses it might have, and also keep its HP up throughout battle, and effectively allow it to phase things out left and right, while also simultaneously doing damage to them with Circle Throw. So overall, this is more of a supportive defensive set for Pangoro, but works extremely well because of the Scrappy ability in combination with Circle Throw, and Pangoro is still going to be able to do quite a bit of damage with its stab attacks, even though we aren't investing in it on this set, just because of how naturally powerful it is. But anyways, that is it for this video, everybody, so I want to thank you all for watching. Please follow me on Twitch and on Twitter, and bookmark the database that will have all of these sets, as well as many of the others that I've been including in all of my analysis videos. And also feel free to join the chat on zat.com/pokegrounds to chat about Pokemon, find battles, make trades, exchange fan codes, and all that good stuff. But as always, everybody, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time in my next analysis video.